Good people, ladies and gentlemen, it's your favorite Moo Boy's favorite Moo Boy, Peanut.
And Prin.
And this is Candid Conversations with Peanut and
Prin.
it is. We got to make sure we get her in step, good people. So I'm going to let you jump into it, baby. What we doing tonight? How you feeling? You're looking amazing, by the way. I like the lipstick.
Thank you. You're looking pretty handsome yourself, my love.
I appreciate that. You put some of that lipstick right there. All right, so what we doing tonight? How you feeling?
I'm pretty good.
Pretty good.
Tonight we are going to talk about what should we talk about?
Whatever you want to talk about. It's Candid Conversations. We can talk about llamas if you want. I don't know much, but I jump in there when I can.
Okay, so actually for any of you all that have never seen Candid Conversation with Peanut and Prin, let us first start by sharing that this is a podcast where we will talk about all sorts of things. Mm-hmm. And so tonight's conversation is going to be on the mindset of employees versus bosses.
Okay. This one should be rather interesting. I've been on both sides of that fence.
I have too. So for you that are watching, our viewers, both of us are entrepreneurs. Both of us have worked full-time jobs to take care of our families. And so we've been on both sides of the fence. But definitely, I think there are some things that when you are an employee, you don't fully understand. And when you're a boss and you've already been an employee, you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
That's why they was acting like that.
Right. So tell me, what are some of the things, I guess, that as an employee is a different mindset than a boss?
Well, as an employee, even though you're hired for a specific thing, the accountability is a lot lower than being a boss. You know what I'm saying? Like, as an employee, you're only held accountable for what you do. But as a boss, you're accountable or held accountable for what everyone underneath you does. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing that I've noticed. That's a big thing too.
Okay, so now that made me think about something else, honey. So then that would mean that an employee's mindset, a boss's mindset, and an entrepreneur's mindset are actually three different things.
Three different things, yes.
Okay.
I would say so. You know, because there are some employees that aim to be bosses, but it's just a power-stricken thing. It's all about power. It's all about having the ability to tell somebody, you go do this and you go do that. But it's really nothing behind it, you know.
Okay.
Entrepreneurs, on the other hand, they're go-getters. They're gonna take the chance, they're gonna take the risk, and they're gonna get out there, you know, and try to get it done on their own. Employees don't take a whole lot of risk. They stay within the confines of that box that the job gave them.
Would you believe I never ever wanted to be a boss?
I can believe that. I mean, I don't think many people want to be bosses.
I don't know about that.
They do, but it's a lot. It's a lot that comes along with it.
Well, so the reason I say that is because I think everyone wants the boss, maybe that boss paycheck, but nobody really wants the full responsibility of being a boss. Like, you do it because of the money. Like, when you're an employee, you work the hours, you put up with the additional task and other responsibilities. But at the end of the day, you're doing all of those things because you want the money. Mm-hmm. That's the motivation behind it. So as an employee, even as a boss, for the most part, you end up having the mindset of trading time for money, which is why I never really wanted to be an employee. I mean, now when I was an employee, I would do my job and I would try to do it to the best of my ability. But I never wanted to be a employee. I never wanted to be a boss. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Well, yeah, I get that. Knowing you, I can see where you get that from. It's a.
Well, what do you mean? Because everybody don't know me like you know me, honey.
Yeah, well, that's kind of like the way you were raised, though. You were raised by a whole lot of entrepreneurs.
True.
You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily bosses, but entrepreneurs who actually control their own destiny. So you didn't have to question whether or not they were the boss. You can tell because they was running shit. You know what I'm saying? Where I'm from, where I was raised at, the closest thing you got to being a boss was being the biggest hustler in the neighborhood. You know what I mean? Whoever make the money is the boss. Whoever make the most money is the boss. But that's a misconception in a sense, because it could be somebody behind the back scenes pulling the strings to make you look like you're doing something. When in all actuality, you aren't. So it's a whole lot of variables. Huh? Bless you.
I'm sorry. I would call that the puppet master.
Yeah, I know quite a few puppet masters. You know what I'm saying? Now, the puppet masters are, so when I think about employees, bosses, and entrepreneurs, right? The employee can gamble without putting up the money.
Okay, wait. Say that again.
So when I think about employees, employees, bosses, and entrepreneurs, the employees can actually gamble without putting up the money. So if they're a hothead or they're risky or risque in a sense, they can take that chance without actually putting up the money. If the actual boss or the owner of the establishment, that's footing the bill.
Oh, that's absolutely true.
Right?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So I can give you a for instance of what you're talking about. So let's say, take me for instance. I have one of my businesses where I have people that work for me. When they make a mistake, that mistake doesn't necessarily affect their bottom line. At the end of their billing cycle or their work cycle, they still make a paycheck, whether I make money off of their mistake or not.
Right.
But I'm the person that not only has to go back and correct the mistake, but then I also have to investigate why this happened and everything. Whereas if I was only a boss would just write the person up, maybe coach them, train them, and let their boss or supervisor or the owner of the business know, hey, so-and-so messed up, and it's kind of left up to that. Now, I will say that there are some bosses who their job responsibility is to make sure that everything gets done correctly. But at the end of the day, it's not as pressing. So if it doesn't get completed in their 8 hours that they're on the clock, they might not do the extra. But when you're the owner of that business, if it's a shipping business, you're going to make sure that those items actually get shipped on time, or you could potentially lose clients. And at the end of the day, losing clients does affect an entrepreneur's bottom line. So.
Yeah, it does. I mean, being the entrepreneur, and like you said, as far as shipping goes, if that last package don't get shipped, guess who got to take it out there? You do. They still go home at the regular time.
Exactly.
They're going to clock out and they still get paid. So the mindset of an employee versus a boss is a complicated one. It all depends on the person, what they want, what they expect, where they're trying to go, what they're trying to accomplish, how they were raised, how they were taught, how they heard it, what they learned. Like it's a whole lot of different variables in there. And I don't know many people that want to be bosses. That accountability and that being responsible for numerous, people's lives and livelihoods, a lot of pressure.
So are you saying bosses or entrepreneurs?
Entrepreneurs.
Okay. Okay. So same topic, but just a little bit in a different direction. So I always hear people say, oh, well, you shouldn't quit your job to run that business.
Mm-hmm.
Or I've heard people say, I mean, well, I thought that once I went into business for myself, that I would have more free time. And even some of the businesses that maybe you can join where there's a team and maybe you're making more money for yourself or something like that. I think people misunderstand the difference between being a contracted employee versus a full-blown entrepreneur business owner. And so I guess my question is why do you think that people don't have a full understanding of how much work goes into being an actual business owner?
Because they don't have the experience.
Okay.
You know, they don't have the experience. They don't have. I don't know. Let me see. Growing up in my lifetime, I don't know a lot of business owners. I know a lot of people that go out and get good jobs.
Okay.
You know,
I
and
know a lot
work.
of people that's got business cards.
You know, yeah, and work for other people. But I just think it's one of those things that if you weren't taught that way, if
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't instilled in you at a young age, if it wasn't something that you actually saw happening,
Mm-hmm.
then you don't believe that it can happen. You know, and I think that's why we don't have more. You know what I mean? Because the whole thought of if I'm running a business and I should have more free time, that's ass backwards. It is because the more control you have, the more responsibilities you have.
Right. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So take for instance, my business. I have a lawn service,
Yes.
right? You know what I'm saying? So the more clients I get, the more I'm out there cutting grass.
Right.
The less free time I have.
Yes.
You know,
We
now I
need
now I know people may feel like, well, you can hire some people to do it, this, that, and the other, but you also have to understand that in hiring people to do it, you want to pay them a fair wage, but they think they're supposed to make what you make.
right.
But they don't have any equipment, no truck, no clients, no nothing.
Right. None of the liability is theirs.
Right. And if they break something, I'm the one that got paid for it.
Right.
In which case, I end up working more because
Right.
I have more control and more responsibility. So that whole, more free time, yeah, that's a myth. I don't know who said that. Whoever said they should be smacked.
Well, okay. So the reason I brought up the free time is because when I hear about, so there are all these, businesses that people can start. So, like, I remember back in the day, I used to sell Avon, right? And Avon was one of the cheapest companies that you could sell products for.
Mm-hmm.
And shout out to all the Avon distributors. Um, we
Shout out to
definitely in the
everyone.
summertime use a lot of Skin So Soft. So we are Avon lovers.
Holler at me. I need some Skin So Soft when we go camping.
But yeah, so I sold Avon, and what one of the selling points was that you could create your own schedule and you could free up your time and have more free time. Like that was one of the selling points that they talked about, was that you could create your own schedule. And so when I started to like sell Avon and move up in the company, what I realized was in order for me to make the kind of money that I was trying to make at that particular time, I had to grind it out. And so back then I was like, well, where's my free time going? Because now I'm trying to host parties and I'm trying to, do various different things. And that just wasn't, I guess, at that particular time, what my anticipation or my expectation was to, spend my time doing Avon parties. But during this particular time, my grandmother was still alive. And she said to me, you do realize that much is given, much is required.
Mm-hmm.
And when she said that statement, it completely went over my head. I was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, I don't understand how you thought you was going to start a business and you thought you wasn't going to have to work the business hard. And I sat there for a second and I still didn't get what she was saying.
Right.
It probably took me maybe 10, 11 more years to figure out, because this was years ago, but it took me maybe 10 or 11 more years to figure out that if I was willing to go to a job and work 8 hours for somebody else to make some money,
mm-hmm.
and when I say somebody else, I mean whoever really owned the business that I was working for,
mm-hmm.
then I should be willing to invest that same 8 hours in whatever business I was starting. And when I had that epiphany, my grandmother, she looked at me, she said, Lord, it took you long enough. Because Geneva didn't have no cut cards.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I started thinking about it from that perspective, it actually made me open my eyes to maybe that's what it is. Like a lot of people, I think they believe that, they should not have to work long hours or something to that effect. And in actuality, if you're willing to spend 8 hours working for somebody else, why not invest that 8 hours in yourself?
Yeah, I mean, but you got to believe in yourself. You got to have that faith and that confidence in yourself. And that's a whole nother
conversation. We can't dive into that tonight.
That's a whole nother conversation. So when I think about what you're talking about, I think about Puff Daddy.
Okay.
Right. So I remember when Puff Daddy was working for Uptown. He was just A&R.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right. He had some responsibilities, but they weren't the responsibilities that came along with actually being the CEO of Bad Boy.
Right.
Once that happened, he lost all his free time because he spent all his time in the studio and finding acts and producing records and producing CDs and yada, yada, yada. So, in order to reach that height or that pinnacle that most people aspire to be, mm-hmm. you're going to have to sacrifice some time to get to where you're trying to go.
Okay. So, you know me, I like throwing a curveball. In our last conversation, if I remember correctly, we talked about the little things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you and I were to give out, well, I'll start with you. If you were to give advice to someone who is aspiring to become an entrepreneur, to start their passion as a business that's going to make money for them, mm-hmm. what would you tell them, or what tip would you give them that would help them manage and maintain their romantic relationship while having that new business?
Oh, man. You threw a curveball there. I wasn't expecting the romantic part. All right. So I guess, Jesus Christ, I guess the advice that I would give them, or the tip that I would give them is something that I tell my sons. For every gain, there is a sacrifice.
Okay.
Right? Meaning, if you're aspiring to do this one thing, then you know what it takes to get there. But you must understand that you're going to have to give up something on this side to get something on that side. For instance, if you want to be LeBron James, mm-hmm. okay, most famous current basketball player in the world, mm-hmm. think back to his childhood. He had to give up the video games and the being a normal kid and hone in and work on his craft hard enough to get to the point where he is now. The sacrifice was his childhood and being a normal kid and getting to do all of those things, stay up late at night and play Fortnite and do this and do that and go to all the parties. But the gain was the life that he lives now. Right? Now, as far as maintaining a relationship during that time, you got to find somebody, man, that's compatible and wants the same thing that you want. So you got to have somebody just as driven as you are.
Okay.
You got to have somebody just as motivated as you are. You got to have somebody that has the same amount of faith, you know what I mean, in God that you have. You got to find somebody that's very, very compatible. And that's a hard thing to do because other people don't see your dreams and your passion. So it's a hard thing to do. Took me a long time to get there. But I got there though.
Well, thank you, honey.
Oh, you're welcome. Hey, no problem. You know what I'm
Okay,
saying?
so if I had to give a tip, well, wait. I need to think about the question I just asked you. If I thought about a tip that I would give somebody that was aspiring to be an entrepreneur and how to manage it, the tip that I would have to definitely give would be utilize a calendar. A calendar is your best friend. So even if it means scheduling out every aspect of your life so that you can make time for the people that you care about. Like, because even when I think about it, we're both parents. And because we're parents, we have to make time for children. We have to make time for family. Because I come from a very big family. For those of you that don't know me, if you have not picked up one of my books yet or have not read any of my bios, one of the lines in my bio specifically says, "Let's throw something on the grill." That phrase is actually not just for the summertime, it is for all year long. We are always throwing something on the grill.
It's a common thing. It is. Definitely.
So, you know, I have to use my calendar just to be able to find pockets of time. Because if it doesn't go on my calendar, it doesn't exist in my world. It's how I treat it. And then you and I, we always are struggling to find like just alone time moments because we're running businesses and managing children and managing family.
And doing Zoom meetings and cutting grass on the other side of the beltway, and you know, and
recording podcasts and producing podcasts and
producing podcasts, and, you know,
so
recording theme songs and a whole lot of stuff going on.
A whole lot of stuff going on. So definitely, I would have to say, just utilize your calendar. I actually read something on social media that was saying if you have to schedule in sex, you doing something wrong. And
you scheduling that in. So I'm good in that area.
Well, so when I read the message, what I actually thought about was somebody who maybe they are so by the book, and so they have just figured out how to make their life work. And they're like, okay, I got this much time to sleep, and I have this much time to, you know, do some work, and I got this much time to eat, and this much time to get the kids to school, and all of that. And so that's what I thought of. But then I thought of, you know, how sometimes we don't get no sleep.
Yeah. I'm sleep deprived. You know what I mean? I need something right now. And I promise you I'm gonna get I'm gonna try to get some, but yeah. So, I mean, but that's the sacrifice for the gain on the other end.
So if y'all see us on our YouTube channel and you see my honey with bags under his eyes, it's because he needs some sleep. But he's happy. He just needs some sleep.
I'm very happy, but you know, I'm working now so I don't have to work hard later.
He definitely needs some sleep.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some as soon as the weather breaks and it get a little cold outside. I ain't gotta cut no yards no more. That's when I'm gonna get some sleep. For sure.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, good people, and everybody in between.
Everybody in between.
We are going to cut this conversation. Honey, is there any last thoughts that you might have for the people?
Hey, man, you know, my tip for every game, there's a sacrifice. So if it's that important to you and you want it, make that sacrifice and gain what you want on the other end. Keep it spicy though. Keep your love life together, please. I'm trying. I'm holding on to mine. I don't know what y'all doing. That's why I ain't getting no sleep. Yeah, but that's all I got on that.
Okay. So I would have to say definitely manage your calendar. Make time for the things that are important, but make sure that you're investing some of that time on your calendar into your sales, into your businesses. Shout out to all the entrepreneurs that are out there. And we thank you for being a part of the conversation.
But give them your socials before you go.
Oh, our socials, our social medias.
Yeah, give them your socials where they can find you at.
Okay, so one, let's like this video if you want to see more from us.
Yep.
Share it with a friend, and you can always find me on Instagram at she.writes.books, or you can find me on TikTok. She writes books media. That's my TikTok handle. Or you can find me on Amazon under Princess Deanna. I have quite a few books out there now. I have a few more that'll be coming out before the end of the year. So check me out. What about your socials, love?
Check her out. On Instagram at A Shot of Moo in the Brew. Or on the YouTube page, A Shot of Moo in the Brew. That's the podcast of me and the fellow. Shout out to El Blanco and Joe Black. I see y'all out there. Yeah, that's where you can find me. And you can find me on her stuff too. So where she at, I'll be there, and where I'm at, she be there. You can find us everywhere, man. We go together like Kool-Aid and water and sugar.
Well, what's the sugar?
That's you.
Well, who the Kool-Aid?
That's both of us.
Okay, y'all. So we gotta go because now we flirting with each other.
Yeah.
Next time.
It's been real.